The death of Lindsey Graham. It is not in my nature to pronounce disparaging words when a life is lost and those around that life take account of its stock and impact. It is important to be honest about the complexities life reveals about a person. For Graham, his professional life was his legacy, his military career, his time in public office, and his quotes as that official will forever be a prominent feature of his biographical description. Graham spent the bulk of his time in service to the government. Between his Air Force service and his 32 years in Congress, he was an institutional device, finding success, power, and influence in the trappings of the machine. He was known during the first half of his career to be more willing than other colleagues in the Republican Party to work with bipartisan partners on topics like international security and judiciary appointments. He was a key figure in the recovery of government norms and accountability after the Abu Ghraib scandal, with the achievement of the rank of colonel, many acknowledgments of admiration from peers, and time spent in influential committees and special assignments. You would think he would have the admiration of both sides of politics. However, he was not without controversy for being overly interventionist in international affairs, and was branded by his own party with the name Flimsy Lindsey for compromising on carbon caps and immigration amnesty. His very vocal intentions against Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran affairs gained him a label of a war hawk. But most notably keystone to his professional identity was his vilification of then-candidate Donald Trump, and a complete reversal for the sake of political leverage. He claimed as much in a 2019 interview with the New York Times, where he said, "I went from, okay, he's president, to how can I get in his orbit, to how can I have a say in what's going to happen today, tomorrow, next week." He had used his yes-man role in the Trump regimes to maintain leadership positions in the budgetary, judiciary, and appropriations committees of Congress. While he publicly struggled to maintain his consistent support from the Trump approach to Republican platforms, he verbally acknowledged that the MAGA base had overruled his conviction. When regarding Graham as a hypocritical Republican, a common theme is to make the accusation that his lifelong bachelorhood is a proof of his hidden life as a gay man. References to Grindr and Bumble are expected and celebrated by commenters. However, while I cannot testify to his sexuality, I can say that leveraging stereotypes that ultimately contribute to mocking a sexual preference demographic keeps LGBTQIA+ community members in a spotlight of ridicule. Put another way, making the joke that he's gay because he's single for the sake of offending Republicans continues the suggestion that it's shameful to be gay, and attaches deceit and mockery to those who truly struggle to open up about their identity. While we are skeptics, we are not speculators, nor are we bigots of convenience. Without proof, let's not exploit a demographic for moral high grounds. But struggling to define oneself is how Graham will be remembered, someone whose identity we from the outside struggle to understand ourselves. It is easy to argue an opinion about someone who is not able to argue in their defense. America lost a human when Graham passed. What that human stood for is up for debate. Dear skeptics, I understand it is hard to be bipartisan in a situation like this, with a man like this. It's important that we stay that way. Among the things that we have to question is the motivations of political parties. When someone who has been very partisan in their lifetime dies, the worry I have for the society is that we will get stuck in the same kind of partisanship and be worse off for it. And so if I can instill anything in my audience, it's that we should question ourselves and our motivations in these interesting times. So what is your perspective of Lindsey Graham and his life? And where does it come from? Why is it so important that you define a person in a certain way, as opposed to letting history define that person for you? Question your own biases. They are perhaps the worst trap you could step into. And sometimes it's hard to have a definitive answer about the character of one's life. Sometimes that in itself is a gray answer. And we're okay with gray answers in this society, because we are all skeptics here.